Hey, in case you missed the title of the video, this is part 2 of our 2023 year in review for Nintendo discussion. So if you haven't seen part 1 yet, we highly suggest you do, and if you already did, well, sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the discussion.
But in any case, we're moving into the second half of the year, I think, being June. We're on June 21st. Which is a sizable amount of time after Tears of the Kingdom. Nintendo knew we'd be busy with that. June 21st, I think, what was a shadow drop of Pikmin 1 and 2. Now, these weren't really remasters or ports, weren't remasters or remakes. These are really more just ports of the Wii version, I think, of the game.
They essentially, yeah. They just made the game look HD, and that was it. Like, the textures look the same. Everything pretty much looks the same. Both games put together were $50, but you can get them for $30 each.
Good deal.
Yeah, pretty good deal. And I played them. I reviewed them since I've never beaten those games before, and I had a good time with one of them.
the one, I imagine.
And Joey, we're the opposite. I had a good time with the other one.
Yeah, because you're a sicko. You're both sickos.
It's the weirdest thing to me, too, because I played them and was like, I just can't imagine who this person is that likes Pikmin 1 more than Pikmin 2. I could not. And it's because to me it was the Dandori. It was having the two people. It was going off over here with one, switching to the other one, trying to like getting in that flow. Like, I really liked that. And when I went back to Pikmin 1, it was a little bit like, I felt like there was like a method that I was supposed to know. That was like the critical path almost, and that like gave me kind of friction I didn't want. Yeah. I like Louie too. I'm a big Louie guy.
It's so interesting that we're having this divide, because this was just a month before Pikmin 4 launched, which we now know from interviews with Nintendo themselves. Like, it sounded like they themselves struggled with like the identity of Pikmin, because Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2 really were two different takes on the similar idea that functioned differently without, one with a time limit, the other with multiple characters and random underground dungeons, and it's almost more roguelike in that sense. And so they tried to marry some of these concepts, both in Pikmin 3, more so in Pikmin 4, and it'll be interesting for us when we get to that game in a few moments here, just because it represents kind of both sides of that. And I don't know if they fully nailed their mission, but it's very interesting. I have myself not revisited Pikmin 1 and 2 on Switch. I would like to, but I really like the first one. But I remember not liking the second as much either, Joey. So you're not alone on that.
Thank you.
I'm in the liking the first one more than the second one boat. The time pressure.
Hey, we're not sickos.
That's the way it goes.
But I wonder what it is, man. I really do. I wonder what it is. Yeah, I don't know.
It's probably what we value in games, Jake. Like, it probably because you really did mention how like they really do have different core focuses. Like the Dandori, so to say, is more prevalent in the second one, while the first one is more about routing, so to say, because it's more about working within the time frame.
Routing. Good call, Tris. Yeah.
I have a Dandori hot take, but I'll save that for our Pikmin 4 part of the discussion. Because, unfortunately, we can't hop right to Pikmin 4, because we have the second Nintendo tentpole of the year, launching June 30th. Everybody everyone. Everybody 1-2 Switch. This game came out. No one talked about it. No one cares. No. And it disappeared.
Best GameXplain video, though, I will say.
Which one? The 30-minute?
Yeah, the totally normal, totally normal.
Or however long?
Video, whatever it was. Yeah, just like,
8 minutes.
I hope your roommate's
so funny.
okay.
Yeah, totally. Where we were literally just like, we record the video of us playing with the mini games. It takes like 10 minutes, and we're just recording like a little skit for it. It was hilarious. That was a lot of fun. Yeah. This game gets begged on constantly, and I might be the only person here who played it. Anyone else play it here?
Nope.
I played during your stream.
Okay, awesome. Because actually that kind of speaks to my point, Jake. I think there's a concept here that Nintendo could really go in on that they haven't yet, and that's the fact that this game is like almost a perfect streaming game, where you have your community play in. They don't have to own the game, and even if not every minigame may be a home run, like there's enough fun in there, even in those, that as a cohesive experience, there is value there. I myself, this is not a great game, obviously, but for what it is, which is a well-presented selection of minigames that you can play to a degree online, I think that's actually really cool. And I think it's a big step up from the first game in particular, which I think really kind of just missed the boat in general. And I think this game does unfairly get targeted. Like, yeah, again, not great, but I think there is value in it as a party experience. And some of those minigames in particular are actually really fun.
Yeah, I think the first 1-2 Switch, no matter how you look at it, is a tech demo of the Joy-Cons. That's what the original 1-2 Switch is. Everybody 1-2 Switch has, in my opinion, better party replay value, if that makes sense. Like, I could see more people bringing up Everybody 1-2 Switch in a party setting or a streaming setting more frequently than the original 1-2 Switch.
I like the original 1-2 Switch. I thought it was fun. I think I have that like with my in-laws, you know, or with like people that don't play games, and we're like, remember that little like draw, you know, remember that one? Remember like the udders? Like, that was a good time. But I want to highlight, there's one mini game in Everybody's 1-2 Switch. Big freaking winner. I thought it was a diamond. I was like, this is such a good idea. And it's when I'm picking. It's the one where you have to find something in your room that's the same color that they want you to find, and you use your phone camera. That's cool. And like the closer you get, the more points you get. And like seeing what everybody took a picture of and like how many points it got on the it was so interesting. Like every time I was like glued to, I was like, oh my God, what did you take a picture of? There was like one during Andre's stream where it was like something orange and I got gritty and I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is so good, you know? So yeah. Yeah, no, it's a really, there were some really smart ideas in that game, and it worked, you know, that was really cool that we were able to play that game remotely, Jackbox style, which also speaks to the danger of the game, because you can take a picture of anything, it's gonna pop up on people's screens. And that's true. Like, take a picture of a pink fleshed object, or pink object. Oh God.
Oh man, Kirby.
Yeah, it's dangerous. Kirby. But that's why I wish Nintendo would lean into that. Like, you know, acknowledge that this, you know, that there could be issues here and rework the game so that they work around it. Because I think they're actually, this game could have been a big streaming game, I think, and the fact that it hasn't been is unfortunate. Another game I think, Jake, that's really fun is actually the auction game. We have to work as a team. You have two teams. Yeah, you have a single pot of money, and you're trying. You have a little chat box for each team. And you're, dude, I remember that. I was like, team, you gotta keep it cool. Okay. As you're saying, really the dollar signs like ratchet up. You know, yeah, it's so good. That was fun. Yeah.
I have a question. I want to pose. What if it wasn't Horus, but Wario? Would everyone be loving this game instead?
That's honestly, Tom, you're on to something there.
Yeah.
It should be Waluigi, obviously.
Yeah, Waluigi people would go nuts. I was trying to be realistic, but I didn't think Waluigi too.
Like, if at one point that horse took off his horse mask and it was Waluigi, that would have been a gamer moment of the that would have been unbelievable, obviously. But I gotta say though, I really think that people, for the Nintendo Switch especially, undersell the value of some of these games that are just like, you have it in your library, you pull it out for times when you want to pull it out. It's not, you're not sinking tens of hours of it into it, you know, the day it comes out, but just to have it there for a specific group of people, I like it for that. I think it has value there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having my parents try when I visit them for Christmas. And I think a nice benefit of it is that even beyond what the first game did, is like almost any amount of players can play this game. So like the first game was restricted to 2, I believe. Here, if you have a phone, you can play.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at a holiday party yesterday. They were playing Mario Kart, and like you have people waiting. If they had something like this game, you could have a lot more people engaged with.
Yeah, that's true.
Again, it could have been Nintendo's Jackbox, and I think had they paired it with Wario or something, or Waluigi, that might have worked better. In any case, let's move on to returning to Pikmin on July 21st, the following month. Pikmin 4 releases the long-anticipated game. This game had been talked about for, what, over a decade? Finally here! Finally here! It featured, Ochi, I think everyone's favorite, virtual pup now. It featured a long campaign, including a side mode, which may appeal to longtime fans of Pikmin, like myself, with Olimar's Shipwreck Tale. Yeah, who all played it here?
Yeah, we did.
All right,
you and I had a review discussion, I think, too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. So, yeah, how are we feeling now, a few months out?
I was very pleasantly surprised by this game, and also by how much content there was, because coming off of, like, Pikmin 3, which felt very, like, quick, there was a lot to do in this game. Like, I was actually very surprised by how much there was to do in this game, and how much I liked it. Like, I earlier this year basically ran through the other Pikmin games, like, in time for this game, or, like, it might have actually been, like, I think I actually got to this game late, and I was still running through the other ones, but point is, I played the other Pikmin games because my friends really wanted me to play this one, and I was surprised by just how much I liked this game. Like, I ended up 100%ing it, which I did not do for any of the other Pikmin games, and I'm very surprised about that. It kept me actively engaged.
Tris, I want to point out, Andre beat this in his first stream of the game, so obviously it's not that long.
To be fair, it was, the usual Nintendo BS first ending, which in this game, I think, is aggressively poorly done. That first fake out ending thing, before you get the proper game, it doesn't even feel climatic in any sense of the word, and I don't like how they handled that. but it's a minor point.
Like, what's the point? Like, it's not like, yeah, isn't there like 2 more levels after those end credits or something? It was a long, yeah, you got like another half of a game to go after that. I think at least. Yeah.
At least.
I don't understand what the point of those end credits were. Yeah, I really enjoyed this when I played it, but I don't know if it's just me as a person now, but it is one of those situations where I played it and I haven't really thought about it since, or thought about going back to it since. It was very fun, but you know, I complained about Pikmin 2, but I did think Pikmin 4 was very much an easy game. It was a little too easy. I know there's some post-game challenges that are really difficult. I should probably try those, but still, either way, I enjoyed it because I saw it mostly as a collectathon platformer without the platforming. Because you're just collecting all these stuff for treasure, and it, like Triss, it was addicting to go back and like get that 100% and find everything in those maps. So in that sense, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Maybe during another year that's not as packed as this one, I would have thought about this game more by the end of the year. But just the fact of the matter is, there's just so many other much bigger and more enjoyable releases this year, to where I don't really know if Pikmin 4 even made it to my top 10. Well, I guess I'll have to find out.
I mean, it's not $70. You know what I mean? It's not. It's not Tears of the Kingdom. But yeah, it's interesting when you say that the game is like easy. It's funny. It doesn't hit me as easy the way that like the Kirby game we discussed earlier hits me as easy. And I think the thing that separates Pikmin 4 out from 1, 2, and 3 is that I would say it's the most like compulsively playable in the franchise. Yes. It's the one that is like the easiest to like pick up on the controller and immediately like run off and start playing. And I think that that's valuable in a way. It's and you lose like a degree of control that I think some of us might miss from the older games, where you were more specific, like with your reticle and could pick things, and now in this one, it's like it does a little bit of the work for you. But it's I don't know, they kind of like, I can almost see this vision for Pikmin here, where they're trying to like yank it into the mainstream, you know?
Yeah,
they change the perspective. It like looks like not to sound weird, but it like looks like a AAA game.
Yeah,
you know,
it looks really good.
Yeah. And like the way that all the characters talk to each other and stuff, there's like almost a part of my brain that's like, this is Nintendo Mass Effect. This is it, baby. They're all here at the hub talking. You know, some of them are kissing. You don't even know, dude. Like, it's, but
like little babies pop up out of nowhere.
Yeah. I really liked it, and there were actually parts of this game that I know people had a lot of friction with that I still really liked. Like the beginning, I know a lot of people complained about people talking to you too much and it's slowing you down. I thought the character writing was like kind of cute, and I didn't mind it too much, so it kind of went easy for me. And that's I think my story with this game is that it was like a smooth ride. It made me kind of like Pikmin in that way. It was smooth.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's definitely good to hear. Was this your first Pikmin, or had you played the others before?
I played them all, baby.
Oh, you played them all. Okay, all right, awesome, cool. Yeah. I think it. You know, I think for many people, it did seem like a kind of smooth experience. The game, you know, it really onboards you to every element of the game, and for me as a longtime Pikmin fan, that actually was that created friction for me. It's like, I know how to play Pikmin. I almost spend 3 hours, like that demo is largely tutorial, and I was so sick of just hearing people talk by that point. I didn't want to hear what anyone else had to say in the hub. So for me, like those elements added friction, because I just want to play the game. I just want to get to the gameplay. I want to go find stuff, and to that point, you know, and to that degree, I think the game, when it comes to actual gameplay, it is by and large frictionless. Like, it does feel smooth. Finding and collecting stuff actually is kind of oddly compelling and addictive and rewarding, almost in the same way the Moons from Mario Odyssey was. But I think my issue with the game as a longtime Pikmin fan is, especially with how big of a deal Nintendo made about Dandori, I'm like, I don't know if Pikmin 4 actually even itself understands what Dandori is. Because there was almost no point in the game, except in the specific Dandori challenges, I ever felt compelled to play to a degree or in a means that was at all strategic or thinking about what I had to do, because it's so easy in that game, just like swarm up with all your Pikmin on your pup, just throw them at everything, and you're done. That's it. That should accomplish every challenge in the game, which is why for me the highlight of Pikmin 4 was actually called a more Shipwreck Tale, because I'm like, yes, this is how Pikmin should be, where you have that time pressure, where it does force you to play strategically, Dandori-like, if you will, because if you don't, then you get screwed. And I'm like, that to me is the essence of Pikmin. So for me, I appreciate that part of what I like about Pikmin is in the game. The rest of it, though, is like, this is just kind of an easy baby's game.
This is good Pikmin analysis. I hear what you're saying. I wonder if some of the map design is like too spread out, and it makes it so that you really only go in one direction and you do what you're saying, which is like you take everybody, and then as you go further, you kind of like, your strays kind of fall off, and it's like, okay, go take this back, I'm gonna keep pushing forward. Take this back, I'm gonna go keep pushing forward. And it's not the kind of thing where maybe in like Pikmin 2, where I would go like, okay, you're going that way, and I'm going this way. And yeah, you're right, I didn't do that as much in Pikmin 4. I'll also say that in Pikmin 4, I never got, maybe this is a psychological barrier that I need to break through, but I never felt like Ochi was another captain, even though he had captain capabilities. So I like never really used him the way that I used like Louie in Pikmin 2.
I'm right there with you. Okay, I didn't, because I would prefer to ride on.
Yeah. I didn't want to lose that ability to like charge into stuff, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way, but also just because changing captains like always confuses me too. Like it just throws me off, so I tended to play with them together as well. And Ochi is adorable. I don't want to underplay that. Ochi is a fun, cute addition. So
yeah, Ochi rules.
All right, on that's a good way to conclude that segment. Moving on to what is my personal game of the year. Hopefully this runs after the game of the year, otherwise I just spoiled it. I think it will. September 14th, nothing in August, September 14th, F-Zero 99. This is a shocking announcement for any number of reasons. One, it's a brand new F-Zero, even if it does look like the Super NES one. Two, it's free on Switch Online. 3, it is a battle royale. You know, you might say in the same vein as Tetris 99, Mario 35, but it really isn't, because this is unlike those other ones. You all exist in the same space. This actually is, for the first time ever, a proper battle royale from Nintendo, which is even more awesome. And this game, man, this game just kills it for me with how well designed it is. I think to a degree, like, I think it does what Mario Kart tries to do even better than Mario Kart, with it being like a really fair feeling, balanced, racing game that still rewards actual skill, because the Skyway is such a brilliant mechanic in how it allows almost anyone the opportunity to catch back up without it feeling cheap. They still have to play the game, and that can be used strategically as well. It's just a very well-designed system, a lot of fun. It's the most fun I've had with a game this year, and it still blows my mind that we had what is a new F-Zero in 2023.
Yeah, I never played it, so. But,
you gotta play it, Joey.
I do gotta. I really do. Jake, it turned you into a believer, didn't it?
It did.
Wow.
Listen, here's all I need to say about this game. Okay, no, listen. Yeah, F-Zero 99's a banger. What can I say? I was wrong about F-Zero. I like. It's I think like all year, because of the DLC, every few months I would like complain about Mario Kart, and I would just be like, oh, there's something here. It's not pressing my buttons. And then like F-Zero comes out and I'm like, oh, this is what I want actually. This is like I'm like feeling the speed. I'm feeling like aggression. It's like there's like a competitive edge here. I felt like all the mechanics, the way that they work together was like really nice and had like good game feel, good like, I don't know, it just like, it checked a lot of boxes for me, and it made me go, man, now I am that person that wants like that really good looking 3D F-Zero that takes some of these ideas and brings it over.
Character development.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I want to feel like I'm flying now, and I want to, and the tunes. I just like love the tunes so much. There's a degree to which I feel like it's some of Nintendo's best work in music is in F-Zero. Yeah.
I think it says so much too about them finally nailing this battle royale style, the 99 games, the free on NSO games. Because you have Tetris 99, which is still going, by the way, which is evidently so successful enough to keep going. You had Mario 35, which could have been so much more than it was if they didn't, pull the plug on it. And then you have Pac-Man 99, which like everyone forgot about like a week after it came out, unfortunately. And then they pulled the plug on earlier this year too. But like, to then get F-Zero 99, which really feels like they went back to the drawing board and said, okay, we need to make these like really engaging. Not you on your own screen with press the right stick, attack random or attack your attackers. Like, it really broke out of that formula to say what they could do with the 99 games and like their NSO free game. That isn't just play the game yourself, but also you can affect other people. Because this is core multiplayer. And that's a huge deal for them.
Tris, I agree. Like, to make it so it's more actively engaging, I want to point out this is a game I think we wanted before in the past. Like, we didn't really predict it, but it's like, hey, we want F-Zero 99.
Yeah.
Tom, I actually did predict it on Twitter.
I thought so. I'm sure we talked about it too. To actually have Captain Falcon come back and have to retire him from thumbnails. Yeah, the Skyway, like Andre said, being a great way, better than an item in Mario Kart with some skill involved.
Yeah.
And yeah, my only disappointment is that I don't like the style of F-Zero on Super Nintendo as much as 3D F-Zeros.
Sure.
And I only hope that they go to it in the future, or bring in like Death Race. Death Race would be a great addition.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that data mine to hopefully come true, where there was, and they alluded to what could have been a death race. So we'll see. They are still supporting the game, which is awesome.
Yep.
If really quick though, if the goal for this was like to generate any kind of enthusiasm for the franchise, it like 100% worked for me. Like my mind has been ablaze with like, oh my god, this is what I would want from a future F-Zero game. Like, and I've been thinking a lot about that actually, and it's I think something I didn't realize about the franchise until this game was the aesthetic and kind of attitude that this franchise has that other Nintendo games don't. And there's this kind of like 80s punk thing going on, and I just like it. It's just like it's like powerful and poppy and fun, and it's a cool direction for Nintendo to go in, especially since like I don't know, seeing like all that art in the UI and stuff in the menus, it really it had like a strong aesthetic and a vibe that you don't see a lot. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. And also to your other point, I think it did a great job. You know, this is perhaps the best case scenario right now for F-Zero to help it reach a broader demographic and have more games in the future, where we have people now who've never played a game or weren't fans of the series now before playing it. Like, there was a period of time where like a lot of big streamers were focusing only on this game, and that's really cool. And it's awesome to see F-Zero like relevant again after basically 20 years of neglect.
Yeah.
And Tom, as you said, it basically forced us to retire Captain Falcon as our spoiler guard on our thumbnails. We still haven't found the proper replacement yet. Maybe we still need to put that up to a vote. Actually, that might be a fun video for 2024. Like, what's our Captain Falcon replacement? In any case, yeah, super great game. It's free, fun. Check it out if you haven't already, and it makes me excited for the future of F-Zero, especially if they take lessons from this game and apply it to whatever's next.
That would be great.
Moving into October, we have a couple of big releases here from Nintendo, and another release that fits in. We'll talk about that. October 6th, Detective Pikachu returns. Jake, you've been playing this, right? Or you have played it? Oh, you have?
No, I streamed it when. No, how dare you?
Jake, you like bad games, don't you? I mean, oh, sorry.
No, this game is awful. This game is terrible.
Yeah.
Tris, you got something to say about this game?
Yeah, I need to admit, until Andre brought it, I completely forgot this game came out this year, which is very telling.
That's selling it short. It is worse than forgettable. It is offensive. It is, yeah. Yes, Tom?
I remember this game because I bet on it coming out earlier in the year in April. That's the only reason.
Okay, can we talk about that really quick? I don't know what you all were on, but the bet was Detective Pikachu 2 launches April 2023, and Tom, Joey, and Tris all agreed that was the month it was going to come out.
Clearly.
Why?
It was a gap in the schedule for.
Yeah, it really was. It was a gap in the schedule.
All right, but
no.
But yeah, it's like, God, it's almost, it's like ugly. And I think like something that's like this, that's like the scope is literally like this big. It's like like looking through a keyhole. It better look good, and it doesn't, and it looks awful. And there's just like no redeeming factors. I feel like it's a game that pretends to be a mystery game, but it like is actually just a visual novel, and you're just going next. So
yeah.
I don't know. It has some cool like police commentary at times, but that's it.
Here's the thing too, like the original Detective Pikachu was already kind of like a mystery game aimed at a young audience, which is fine because of what the Pokemon IP is, but this is supposed to be a sequel to that. This is supposed to be a follow-up to that. Like, what, 8 years later? The people who play, like, people who
that's
are,
a great point, Tris.
People who this is made for didn't, like, no. Like, this game suffered from not understanding its audience. If it's a sequel, is this made for people who played the original, or the same target audience the original had? And it's at odds with itself because of that. Because everybody who played the original did not like this one because it wasn't made for them. Or they didn't feel like it was made for them because it was as easy, if not easier, than the original. Whereas people that jumped into this game that never played the original went, man, I wish I could play the original now because what's going on here?
Easy implies that there is any choice going on whatsoever.
Yes.
It's easy in the way that like standing on an escalator is easy. Okay.
Man, I'm just thinking of that and like applying it to Metroid. Like clearly people who played Metroid are now 40 years old now and want a boss that'll be like super hard and take them hours repetition. Like it was rewarding, I guess, yeah, but
no, I just like the fact that we had more positive things to say about everybody horse in this game. It says everything.
That does say a lot, doesn't it? That does say a lot.
Talks about the core of the games.
Which is especially strange. At the top of this discussion, I mentioned like all the impossible games that came out this year, like a 3D Zelda, not fully impossible, F-Zero, Pikmin 4. But then this game had also been talked about for years. I think with Switch take on Detective Pikachu, and it finally comes out and just seems like no one cares.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe there's just so much happening in the Pokemon sphere. Like with all the DLC and constant talk of upcoming games, and this one just kind of falls through the cracks as a weird side story, but also. It just doesn't sound like it's as strong of a game by itself, except for maybe the youngest of gamers.
I think that's really the big issue because like new Pokemon Snap, for example, when that came out, that there was still attention on that.
Yeah.
I think this really is a case of unfortunately the game's just bad. Yeah, and I'm not someone to say that normally.
No, you don't say that often. So when Trent's saying it, it's a thinker.
I think for the third one here, they need Detective Pikachu to travel back to the past when Pokemon is starting, and also take photos.
Wait, that would be sick if Detective Pikachu was like turned into like pixely like Pokemon Yellow and like looked like that and had a little hat.
My gosh.
That would actually rule. But I just want to say, by the way, that this was in October. This kicked off every month for the rest of the year now. There would be at least one video where I'm just doing a lot of voice acting. And if you want to see me doing voice acting, our Detective Pikachu stream, dear God, Nintendo, put some voice acting in your games. Give me a break, dude. Oh, God.
Also, side note, another video that relates to that is Jake's amazing Mario RPG voiceover video, which we'll be talking more about that game soon. All right, let's move on to what I think is we'll all agree a better game. October 17th. Not a Nintendo game, but it's, Nintendo adjacent, being Mario's long rival. Sonic Superstars launching, the return of, a brand new 2D Sonic, which we really hadn't had, arguably since Mania. You could even say since even longer than that, since Mania was largely, a remix of existing content with some new stuff mixed in. Triss, you covered this for us, I believe.
Yep.
How do you feel now, looking back a couple months later?
Looking back a few months later, I definitely see why people are a bit harder on this game. It definitely has its issues. I had a good time with this game, but the best way to describe it to me really is this is classic Sonic back as classic Sonic, for better and for worse. I think it does a lot of really good things while also doing a lot of questionable things that, not even just in hindsight, like the multiplayer, really, it was not designed well around the multiplayer. There's so much the game feeds back into its online that there's really no incentive to play. So it's very strange. But the core of what the game is, of a 2D Sonic, including having a brand new character, is cool. And I like that. And I hope they do something more with what they've established here, like kind of across the Sonic IP. And I hope this means they won't be afraid to revisit classic Sonic in the future. Because I think there's a lot they could still do there. I think this game proved they could still do more there. They just gotta maybe do a little bit better with it.
Yeah, I played a few levels and I stopped caring. I think I realized when I played it, like, wow, do I just not like 2D Sonic? Like, I remember liking Mania a lot more than this. I should probably go back to Mania and see what it did well. But to me, the levels in Sonic Superstars, I just felt like I was going through motions. I didn't feel like I was doing anything meaningful or rewarding. I was just jumping and running and getting some rings. There's hardly any exploration in these games because you're going so fast. And yeah, I just didn't really care about Sonic Superstars, so probably never gonna beat it.
Man, I was on the other side. I like it way more than Mania. Way more, no question.
Really?
Yeah,
interesting.
No question. I think Mania suffers a little bit from original Sonic problem, which is like you don't know what's happening until it happens. and like you come up on like the screen shifts and you go, oh, okay, well, the way that I prevent myself from running into that wall or missing that jump is by hitting retry on the level. And I actually think Superstars did a better job of like being a platformer, and that might be at the expense of like some Sonic-y attributes, like going fast all the time. I don't know. But like to me, it was actually like a more, I felt like I could play the game that I want to play, that the way that I want to play platformers. So I appreciated it for that aspect. But Tris, I completely agree with you. I did that preview where I thought the multiplayer was like, like a bunch of monkeys designed it. I was like, what is this? This doesn't make any sense. I don't. Yeah.
I also think it really should not have released the same week as Mario Wonder. I think when they learned Mario Wonder was in, they should even like a week before or after, like just not the same exact week. I feel like definitely kind of hurt it.
I also really like the boss fights in this game. Shout out! I thought that they were like focused in a way that I like them to be. It's like, oh look, we're gonna make you do this thing that's not anywhere else really, and like clear and readable in a way that Sonic games sometimes aren't. And like I remember even as a kid, I remember doing Sonic bosses on like Sega Genesis and being like, where am I supposed to land on this guy?
Yeah.
Like how am I supposed to hit him? And like I never had that problem in Superstars. I know it's like a silly little thing, but it matters to me. Yeah, and why isn't the multiplayer just split screen? Why doesn't it just give you like one guy up here, one guy down there, you're going across? Like it seems like it would work. I don't. Yeah.
It would have been nice if that's how it was, because the way it is, it just makes the camera so erratic and borderline nauseating at some levels, to be honest.
Not borderline. But puke city, puke city.
Yeah.
Superstars almost felt to me a little bit like Sonic's take on Donkey Kong Country Returns, like taking what is now kind of like an older style of gameplay, updating with some light 3D elements. And I think it did a good job in some respects. Like I liked the background and foreground interplay. They added some cool new mechanics, like going around like circles before it launches you off or whatever it was. Yeah, I don't think it was a home run in every respect from what I played, but I can see both sides, why some people may enjoy it, some people may not. Some of which may be tied into the inherent nature of 2D Sonic, and others not. Sonic is such a weird franchise where you have like so many splits in the demographic. I feel like it's something you don't see in too many others. Like Mario, I don't know. I feel like Mario's a little bit more cohesive when it comes to a fan base compared to Sonic, where people are fans of specific games, and that's
but also just a dream for the future. I want them to put like a little cute Shadow in one of these so bad in the future. They just won't do it. They won't make a little baby Shadow run along these little round boys. Like I want it so bad. One day they're gonna do. He's coming in the movie, and there's gonna be like a year of Shadow. I swear to God. He's just gonna appear in all of these games. They've been saving him. I swear they've been saving him.
Now, Jake, hear me out. What if they try doing that? Because since they've started releasing DLC costumes for Superstars, and it's just a Sonic costume that makes him look like Shadow.
Stop. Oh. Wait. Is it okay? Is it Sonic wearing a Shadow costume and I can like see the zipper, or does he actually look like Shadow?
I feel like either one's a problem.
No. If it's just Shadow, if I can pretend. If I can hear like him going chaos control, like that, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. I'm okay with But if I can see the zipper, I'm hard out. Hard out, dude. Hard out. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to another game that launched that same week, and it might have been the nail in the coffins for Sonic Superstars, as we discussed, being on October 20th, the release of Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Finally, after what, 20 years, a non-new Super Mario Bros. Game, at least in name, featured an animation budget, cute little details like singing piranha plants. How do we feel about this? It's only been, like what, a month and a half now, 2 months, but I guess 2 months. How are we feeling now about Mario Wonder?
It's a fun time. It's a fun time. Like, it really is. I wouldn't say it's, like, as good as, like, the Rayman Legends or the Tropical Freezes, but, I guess it's unfair to compare those games. But, I felt like there's a lot more room for improvement here. I felt like every level didn't... like, you said it great in your review, actually. I think, Jake, you said this. Every level stays at, like, an 8 out of 10. Yeah. And that kind of just... There's no peaks and valleys. It just feels like a constant, like... string of like some levels are better than others. Yeah, some levels are better than others, but
to stay that the entire game at an 8 every single level, like that's pretty good, man. Like it wasn't that long ago we were playing these new Super Mario Brothers games where it was a whole string of levels and you would just go, yep, You know? So,
there's
like,
a good one.
Not memorable at all. You know what I mean? And at least like these. I think something that really helps this game is that like the Wonder Flower is the moment creator, and it's something that like lets you go, hey, remember the level with this thing, and like that just goes a long way. And it doesn't mean that you're getting like the best platforming, like Joey said, you like those other games more, but it does at least mean that it has like an identity. And I think that like, man, these games, that's what these games needed. They needed like a refresh in their identity.
Yeah, this game has an identity beyond being 2D Mario. Yeah. Being 2D Mario was the identity for the entirety of the new Super Mario Bros. Games, by the way. I think this game excelled at having charm, which is something that, in retrospect, was missing in a lot of Mario games, more than realizing, I think. Just because of the amount of charm this game oozed in so many different ways. I loved every moment I spent with this game. I think it was a fantastic time. I do agree with what you mentioned about how it's kind of like a constant 8. Like, there's never like a point where it's like, wow, this is incredible, and wow, this is mediocre. Like, there's never those different ends of the scale. It's just like constantly pretty high up, which is, you're right, Jake, that is impressive. It does make me wish there were moments that were like a little bit better, like a little bit pushing a bit higher, but it was honestly a very good time all the way through, and it gave me feelings I haven't had playing 2D Mario since like Mario 3 and Mario World, which is great.
We had bets about this game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I do remember that.
Well, first off, at one point randomly during the video, Andre goes, "I want a chain chomp grappling hook," and I was like, that was pretty cool. That's pretty much it.
Wasn't far off.
I was like, yeah, you pretty much got it. All right, cool.
Yeah.
But the okay, this was I had to debate who was right about this one for a minute, so maybe you'll think I'm wrong. But the bet was there is a new 2D Mario, but she looks pretty much the same. And we debated this for a long time. It was like, who decides? It feels subjective. And what we settled on was a normal person would be like, oh no, this is obviously different, versus like, oh no, I don't see the difference. I think at this point, every single review talks about how it is different, so we can all agree. The people who said it will look different were correct. So hats off to Tom and Andre for having confidence that it would be different. Andre, you were a last-minute switch. Last minute. Wow. You were like,
I was scared.
No, I want it. You literally were like, I want to believe.
I was burned so hard, so many times before by 2D Mario.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it kind of speaks to like what Tris is saying. Like, this game, they finally found an identity again for 2D Mario in this case, and it to some degree it feels like they're making up for lost time. Like they've lost several generations of 2D Mario, but at the end of the day, it's still a fun game. Those Wonder Flower moments stand out, or Wonder Flower moments with how they twist the typical gameplay. It actually keeps you on your toes. But that's one of the problem with like new Super Mario Brothers Mario is it's just like no matter how much I tried, I could not focus on it. Like I would play it like perhaps flawlessly. I had no memory of what I just played. I didn't have to think about anything. It's just go on autopilot and that's it. The game's done. But here you actually have to think about these Wonder Flower, whether it's changing how the physics are, your character's actual abilities, or any number of things, and that actually is fun and actually made the world feel worth exploring. So
I want to touch on quickly too. This is maybe probably some of the most fun multiplayer I had this year with my friends, like doing couch gaming. Very little friction in the multiplayer compared to the old ones,
literally,
especially.
Actually.
And I found like having, when you're off screen, like being able to come in quick, it kept the levels going. Like very few levels that ended in like restarting from the beginning in terms of everyone dying. So yeah, other than that though, the bosses were a bit disappointing for me.
Yeah,
so.
That's what I was gonna say. This might sound like a hot take, but this is like one of the few 2D Mario games I think could have used the Koopalings.
Yes,
because especially with the Wonder effects, you could have really shaken up what makes each Koopalings mechanics their own identity and really done a lot with them across these different worlds.
Wow, I'm almost willing to say this might be the worst bosses out of any of these. Like this is, yeah, they're really bad.
what I don't understand is how you have this hilarious setup with Bowser as a literal castle, and you do nothing with it. Nothing with the idea. Like, why? You know, you're not like climbing Bowser. You don't turn into a castle yourself to fight him as another castle. He's just a background element. He's literally a background element. It makes no sense. I don't know what they were thinking with that.
I have no idea why. Like, why make him a castle as opposed to anything else? Dude, Nintendo storytelling, man, they thought it was cool. They were like, look, he's a castle.
But why? It was one of those things. One of my complaints about the game is like, look how weird this game is, and that strikes to the heart of that. Like, Bowser's a castle. It does not matter, but there he is.
It may sound so weird, but like with Bowser being a castle, I would have loved to see like a level like solely based around the idea of like destroying the castle and then having to escape.
Yeah, you can.
And then it turns him back to normal, and then you fight him.
Could have been another inside story.
Yeah, it is weird that you never go like in the Bowser castle or anything like that. I want to echo what you said, Tom. Though you don't, right? You never go in the Bowser. Yeah, okay, just making sure. I want to echo Tom. I played this entire game co-op with my fiance Sarah, and I completely agree. Really, really good multiplayer experience. I actually think I enjoyed this game more because playing with somebody else who doesn't play games all the time, it made me like slow down a tiny little bit and like reflect on every moment and like take it in a little bit of a different way. And I really appreciated playing that game like that. And this game has her seal of approval for sure. There were so many nights in a row where she was like, "Can we play Mario? Can we play Mario?" And I was like, "Oh, dude, excellent." So thank Mario Wonder. Heck yeah, always love having a good co-op game. So
excellent.
And you know what was really cool too, just a little thing, is that like when we first started playing, she was like, "I'm gonna play Yoshi," because like Yoshi can't get hurt, and she was doing the whole thing, and like sometimes I would like jump on the back. It was like really fun. And then after playing for a while, was like, you know what, I'm gonna be Peach actually, and like upgraded in her skills, and I was like, that was cool to see in real time. So yeah, thank you, Mario.
Yeah, and it had online too. That actually worked well. So that was also nice to see. Real quick, I just got to circle back to the castle point, because what happens when you unlock Bowser's castle? Like, you get all the flower piranha plant things gone. Wait, is the world map not inside him at that point? What happens? No?
He's up at the end, right, Tris?
He's at the end, okay.
Yeah, he's just up there.
Yeah. It's so the whole idea confusing. Anyways, all right.
No,
Mario
Andre, Wonder. This is important because it's the exact same thing as them turning into dragons at the end of Tears of the Kingdom. This is my new Nintendo thing. You ready? It's Nintendo going. Please clap.
I want to voice one more thing too. That it was not Charles Barnet, so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk more about this in the news segment, so in the headline segment. So we'll save that for later. There's a lot to say about that, I think. Real quick, I do want to give a shout out to the Mario movie for forcing Nintendo to finally up the animation budget for this game. Yep. Because it really did show us how soulless the new Super Mario Bros. Games, especially after the first one, really were. And I think there is a possibility I would have enjoyed. I would have enjoyed them at the least more if they had more soul put into them. Like, if they just look so bland, Mario's expression never changed. And I like that Mario, like, you know what I like about Mario games, like the ones I enjoy? Mario's just having a good time. He's just hopping along, enjoying life. You know, it doesn't matter if he gets killed 300 times. He's still having fun at the end of the day. And that really comes through in Mario Wonder. So I love
it. Really does.
Well, I really wish, though, that, because now I feel like we got the characters. Future of Mario, just thinking ahead, I feel like they just really need to re-examine, like, what a world is and what those aesthetics and themes are, because even in Mario Wonder, I was a little bit like, oh my god, like I would give anything to feel like I was actually in the Mushroom Kingdom doing platforming. If there was a level that was like, oh, you're running through an active like Mario Kart, like that would be amazing. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, yeah.
I don't want to go too far into the weeds on this. Sure. I think one of my complaints with Wonder, again, minor concern, it still follows the grid-like structure of all the other 2D Marios, and I wish it would just step away from that. Go more like for a naturalistic type feel, like the Donkey Kong series. So.
Yeah, cool.
All right, let's move on to November, where we had a couple of big releases, plus some major DLC news. Or, not news, but release. But starting on November 3rd, WarioWare Move It. Basically a sequel in all but name to WarioWare Smooth Moves on the Wii, where you use the Joy-Cons as motion controls to perform every microgame. Jake, I know you've been playing a fair amount of this, and I think you're a pretty big fan of it, right?
I love this game.
Wow.
I love this game.
Nice.
This came out of nowhere. I did not get it on day one. Randomly picked it up because actually we had finished Mario Wonder and I was looking for another game to play with Sarah, and you can play the whole campaign for this co-op. And it's actually like a really good co-op campaign, I think, the way that they structure it. Because sometimes it's like you take turns doing micro games, and then sometimes you do them together. And it's like it has like a really nice vibe to it. But yeah, I think that it's like perfect in a way for a WarioWare game. How do I want to say this? I think the use of the Joy-Con is a little revelatory. It convinces you you're doing more things than you're actually doing. And I think it's really effective in the design of like, there are so many different forms in this game. Like the different, like, hold it like this, hold it like this, hold it like this. But like, the truth is, how many different ways can you hold this? 3? Like, you know what I mean? But like the game is really good at like fooling you into thinking you're doing all of these different things. And I think it's really like creative and smart in that way. And I don't know, it's like I found like all of the little like cutscenes before the games to be really charming. I think the collection of games is really good. Yeah, it just works. I don't know. I like all the different like multiplayer modes you can play afterwards. From like a WarioWare game, I was really impressed, and it gave me more than what I wanted. And I don't think this was a $60 game. I think it was a $50 game. So
I think it was less. Yeah.
Yeah, tip of the cap. So yeah, I really like it.
I just wish it came out at a better time, because being sandwiched between Mario Wonder and Mario RPG, I know at least for me, definitely made it hard for me to want to pick it up, because, you know, that's kind of a lot of games at once. I think this would have been perfect if it was in August or September, because there weren't as many releases during then.
Yeah, that probably may have been better. Maybe I'm guessing it wasn't ready, or who knows? Who knows what the reasoning was? One point I want to touch on, Jake, that I like that you made is, you know, the technology within the Joy-Cons, while, you know, neat, ultimately isn't all that great for assessing how you're holding the controllers.
Right.
And the way they did use it here is actually pretty impressive. And it reminded me a lot of how Wii Sports worked on the Wii, which had even more rudimentary, like, motion detection capabilities. But they used it within those constraints where it actually felt a lot more capable than it was, and WarioWare just kind of tapped into that same energy where it's like, oh, this game knows exactly what I'm doing, you know, and it's fun that it can explore all the different uses for the Joy-Cons, which is something Nintendo hasn't really done enough, I would hope. Labo, Ring Fit, both flirted with ideas, but it's nice to see a Nintendo game, like, really more embrace it, and actually kind of to your point, Tris, this actually feels like it's not months late, it's years late. Like, we're almost at the start of the Switch life cycle.
Yeah.
Like, this is a perfect showcase for the Joy-Con technology. And yeah, and this is a game, Jake, that encourages you to like drop your controllers, you know, like it legit wants you to drop them, and that's something to wrap your head around.
Yeah, and on that one too that uses like the IR camera, it's one of those few times in the game where it's like the illusion of doing more than it's actually doing is dropped, and there actually is a little bit of magic. Like it's like I need to put the number 3 in this little camera on the bottom of my controller that I forget is even there, and I do it, and I see the outline of my hand on the screen live, what I'm doing, and it has a little whoa. It has a little like, you know what I mean, in a way that other consoles don't. I have that little moment where I'm like, whoa, oh, we can do this. Okay, you know, it's cool.
If only use the IR sensor more on it. So
I wish HD Rumble though. I wish we did that a little bit more.
Yeah,
I feel like that was lost to year 1 of the Switch. We just never talk. Like, it's crazy to me. Tears of the Kingdom man out here being like, we don't care about Switch functionality at all. Like,
yeah, Breath of the Wild didn't use it either. So
see, that one I give the excuse because of the Wii U. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then I figure like this will come through. It's but no, they don't care.
Well, I would say it's nice, Jake, to hear you speak kind of highly about this game, because I kind of heard bad things, and it's one of those experimentation games near the end of the life cycle, but yeah, too bad it's not earlier. It's kind of like a chicken and the egg thing, maybe, but in that mini game where you're a chicken laying egg. I don't know.
Let me call out some people really quick, because I feel like in a lot of reviews, I saw people say the motion controls are unreliable. I would ask these people to invest in a mirror. and see if they're really doing the motions correctly. Because I never had this problem. I always was like, oh, it was me. I wasn't doing exactly what it wanted me to do. And that's okay. You can mess up. The game wants you to do that. The game wants you to go, quick, get in the peck position. You know, and it's like, oh no, I didn't do it quite right. It's like, oh, you know, that's okay. Like, you're not supposed to do it right every time. I know we're gamers, but like, it's
to be fair, yeah. This is the complaint that goes back as old as time. AKA the Wii era, where people complain, if there's motion controls in your game, people are going to complain about it to some degree. So some people get it, some people don't.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to not a game release, not even that surprising of a release, but it is the final installment of DLC for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. On November 9th, they got Wave 6, you know, putting a cap finally on what I think a year and a half, 2 years worth of additional content, which as a whole was a complete surprise. No one expected Nintendo to effectively double the amount of content in this game. It's so late in the game's lifespan too, yet here we are, 48 new tracks, 96 tracks total, an absurd amount of racing content for a game. How do we feel about it now? Trust, I know you're huge on Mario Kart. What are your thoughts now? That
Me?
I know. Can you believe it?
No. Honestly, it's incredible, and the fact that this year in particular really wowed me. Like the first year of the Booster Course Pass, you know, the first 3 waves, there was good content there. There were good courses, but then the second year of it, this year, they started adding characters. They started getting bigger on their promises. They started going bigger with some of the course selections. And it was like a really good time this year, like kind of going through the hype cycle and the speculation cycle, seeing what they're going to add, what they're going to do, and then kind of surpassing the expectations for this wave as well. I mean, we got Funky Kong back, for example, which was huge to so many people. Like, this final wave really went out with a bang, and it was such a strong end to the game, like with Wii Rainbow Road and everything. And I couldn't be happier with how it ended, to be honest. I think it was done really, really well, and I think it had a great selection.
I was going to say, Andre, don't use the word double. It hurts my heart.
Did I say it already?
Double dash like mode.
No. I wish.
I almost, like, the tracks were so great. It was great to have an excuse to revisit it, like, 3 times a year at least with my friends. But in thinking back to, like, the first wave, that Ninja Hideaway or whatever it was, that was such a good track. Hard to have one as good as that later. I almost wish there was just more stuff along the lines of having the items that turn off, like that play with the gameplay more, or like throwing in a new item. Like, characters are great, but I think they could have pushed it even further. The amount of tracks, though, is just ridiculous that's in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have complicated thoughts on the DLC as a whole, because on the one hand, you look at it, it's effectively 48 new tracks for basically free if you have the expansion pack. So it's hard to complain. But on the other hand, it's like, is this really the best use of Nintendo's resources here? Like, could they have used this time maybe to do something else more interesting? Because I guess for me, like, adding more, like, I had no complaints about the amount of tracks in Mario Kart already. There were already tons of tracks, more than any other game in the series, and yet they added even more to it, and it didn't resolve my core issue of the game, being like I was just kind of starting to get tired of the gameplay. So adding more tracks just doesn't really resolve that. It just gives a momentary boost in interest until I, you know, fully learn those new tracks too. And then when you look at the track selection itself, some are great, but it's just kind of mixed overall. Like, the tour tracks never really feel like they fit in, and the quality is like all over the place, even outside of the tour tracks. Some tracks look like, oh, they could have launched with the game. Others felt a little like they had a tight budget, or they either had a smaller budget or time and couldn't fully make them feel like they actually fit into Mario Kart. And so it almost lessens the game as a whole in some respects. Like, because now you kind of end up with this hodgepodge of weird crap. And you know, ultimately, I still think it's a good thing. But I wish they had maybe had half the tracks that allowed them to better focus on the quality of them, while maybe exploring ways of mixing up the gameplay, whether in the form of new modes. I won't say Double Dash Tom, even though I just said it, or new items to like experiment with the meta. You know, I don't know, just something else to change the core of the gameplay beyond just adding more courses.
You know what? I'm actually really glad that they did this, and we have this Mario Kart game that has all these tracks, because I actually think it makes the future more exciting. in the world,
that's a good way of looking at it.
Like in the world where they didn't do this, I think a lot of us would be going, why doesn't Nintendo do DLC for Mario Kart and like have this, you know, and just like keep adding stages, you know what I mean? So like the fact that we kind of got this out of the way, I think actually makes what they do next way more exciting in the way that like right now the future of Smash Brothers is like so up in the air. It feels like it's like who knows what they're gonna do, and I kind of feel the same way about Mario Kart right now. Yeah.
Kind of to that point, Jake, if Switch 2 is indeed backwards compatible, which I imagine it would have to be, I think, but maybe I'm wrong, who knows, that will mean this Mario Kart will continue to work on that next generation, which is all the more reason for the next Mario Kart to switch it up. That way this can still remain its own game, and you have another game that is also its own identity.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think like the fact that I think it's also good just because we got Nintendo to a place where they were supporting a game like Mario Kart with DLC over the course of years. And I think that's a good sign for the future, because even if they do have like a drastically different Mario Kart in the future, I think there is a little bit of a customer expectation now that there will be some DLC for it in the future, which I think is ultimately good for a game like Mario Kart and what a lot of people want in the modern gaming space. So I think like, you know, as a stepstone for a game that is like a deluxe version of a Wii U game, I actually think it did a lot of work. In a way that will be transformative to the future of the franchise.
And I think too, with the fact that it took so long to get this DLC, I think we also have to remember this clearly wasn't the original intent. I think this was a direct response to not just the pandemic, but there being Mario Kart 8 Deluxe as the constant #1 game selling for the Switch. It's okay, you know what? With everything going on, with the fact that it's going to be too long until our next game, let's go back and do something with this one because it has such a huge audience. And I think we know the Mario Kart Tour team was the one doing it now, so we know that it was that same team that now divided their efforts between the mobile game and adding content to this game. I think the fact that they even went back and added characters, and then like they added the custom item setting. They rebalanced the game. I think all of that is more than I expected out of it, because I really just expected not couple, but you know, some additions, no changes really. And because of what this was, I didn't really expect them to go in and like change the core of the game. But one could argue by rebalancing things, they did to a degree. So it is interesting to look at that way. But I never really had the expectation of adding in something like major game changing to change the core of what makes Mario Kart 8 Mario Kart 8.
Yeah, to that point, Tris, we had a comment from one of our Twitter followers, Mr. Twister, a common appearance in our Mario Kart weekly streams, who said, for the first time in Mario Kart series history, Nintendo both made balance patches and broke time trial mode. I guess because the balance does change, the time. It's funny. But yeah, I mean, you know, I do respect that. It's nice to see Nintendo actually keeping up with the game, you know, updating the meta, updating, you know, maybe they're keeping tabs of what's winning too often. I don't know what their process is, but it is nice to see them actually changing things on a level that you would expect from, you know, such as you know, an evergreen. What are those titles called? The ongoing
Fortnites.
Yeah, the Fortnites, if you will. The ever live services, whatever.
Live services.
Yeah. Which I wish we would see more in Smash Brothers, especially based, you know, with the Steve meta now.
Don't, how dare you. Cursed, dude.
I want to add in real quick, Andre, you're talking about use of resources. Tris pointed out the Mario Kart Tour team was working on it. Like, maybe it was easier for them to do that, so that was kind of like two birds, one stone. And also, I would still say this is partially a response to Smash Brothers ending and wanting to have one of their other biggest games takes on the limelight and continue pushing NSO.
Yeah.
Which is funny that we mentioned Smash, because it also ran. We had this in the news section originally, but we're gonna move it up here now, I think, because
Jake's getting ready.
What?
Jake's getting ready to pounce.
Jake's ready?
Smash news. Smash news.
Smash news. Because on December, we're skipping something in November, but I just want to get to Smash real quick. Because on December 6th, they announced that for the 5th anniversary, they're going to add new spirits to the game. So it was fun to see them at least add, you know, some additional, you know, some light additional content to it at least.
Yeah, that little promo art they put out was cool. There was a conspiracy theory, really quick. There was a tweet that Sakurai put out where he was like, I swear to God, the tone was like, oh, I guess they're doing this. And I was like, Sakurai, is Nintendo making a Smash Brothers without you right now? Do you have no idea what's going on, dude?
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Because they have to be thinking already on the next Smash, right?
I personally think he is making it right now. If I was a betting man, yeah.
Won't be surprised. If we see actually, didn't Sakurai not too long ago announce he was slowing down the production of videos? Like he was going to move from 3 to 2 a week or something, or whatever it was?
Yep.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why. All right.
Active development.
All right, ignoring the Smash intermission, we're moving back to November 17th, Nintendo's final brand new game of the year. I say brand new loosely because it's a remake, being Super Mario RPG, a game that I think many never expected to see again outside of potential re-releases. Yet here we are, full-on remake. Seems to be it was extremely respectful of the original, including the exact same camera angle, you know, same world design and all that. Just adding some quality of life features, adding a few new mechanics, and you know, redoing all the visuals and music. And I think, you know, outside of maybe Metroid Prime, as I mentioned earlier, and outside of a couple complaints I have with this game, this is, I think, one of the best examples of how you do a proper full-on remake. Again, extremely faithful to the original, but updating it in some smart ways, even if I don't agree with all of them. But by and large, an extremely successful remake, I think, that is, that fittingly pays a tribute to the original while feeling like a new game at the same time.
This game is delightful. Is the best way I can put it. Like, this game is delightful. I had such a good time going through this game again. Better than I expected. Not that I expected to have a bad time, but I struggled with the original game back when I played it.
Really?
And, yeah, originally. I was young when I played it before, so, like, I had trouble, but now I knew things like the lazy shell and things like that. So, I knew how to get through it better this time. But I had a really good time with this, honestly. I think just the wow factor of actually revisiting this game being something, as you mentioned, we never thought Nintendo would do, I think says a lot about like where Nintendo's at now too. And the fact that this game released and people are having a good time with it and it is largely being praised, that is fantastic.
I'm on the other end. Oh. I don't like it. I don't know. I was really excited for this.
Okay.
I really like the original. And I think a lot of the stuff I like about the original has actually been kind of like sanded down in this one. I think that there's like in the originals, like art design and like the what they were doing in the graphics there's this almost like I have a fondness for how quaint it is. It's like, you know, and it's kind of like a late Super Nintendo game too. So I feel like even in context, there was like a bit of like a, oh, it's a little less than what is contemporary right now. And there's something about like the art style, the presentation, and all of like the little stuff that this was the game that I think like really set me off on my opinion about Nintendo remasters and remakes. And I can't help myself. I'm looking at stuff like Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I'm just like, man, I know that that's like the complete other end of the spectrum, but I wish that there was like one Nintendo game like that, and I think that this might have been a cool one to do it with. But like, this is such a small thing, but stay with me. Like when Mario blocks an attack in this game, like when you do the little timing thing and he blocks an attack, and it like, the artistic decision that this game makes is that it brings up like a little like light shield thing, and it's like nothing. It's like a video game thing. It's like, oh, you got the timing right, so you get this little shield. It's like when you have the graphics that you're using now and you're paying special attention to the presentation because that's largely what the game is. It's a remake. Why not have him do something cool? Why not have him like actually like, you know, I don't know, or like do like a cool Mario thing. Instead, it's just like this generic, and I feel like that's all throughout this game. It's just like the easiest way possible is the thing that they did. And I don't know, there's like this little flair that I think is gone. And it's I'm glad people get to play this game for the first time. I think that's really cool. But as somebody that already has, it does not. There's like a goofiness that I think is gone. There's like an intrigue and I don't know. It's just missing the sauce for me. It feels a little too safe. Yeah.
The voice acting is good though.
Yeah, that one actor nailed it.
Dude, the sword, he's amazing. Yeah.
It's interesting, Jake. For one, to your specific shield complaint, you know, Mario already crouches too, and that happened in the original game. So I don't know why they even needed to add the shield. That specifically didn't bother me, but you know, in the broader sense, like the fact, you know, you mentioned they sanded off some of the edges, and I think in that sense the difficulty took the hardest hit for me, where it by and large is a really easy game now, and you don't really, at least for me, I don't have to think much about any of the battles outside maybe a couple of boss fights, even actually not even that. Only in the post game did I experience any trouble at all, really.
Yeah.
Which kind of undermines, you know, a lot of the gameplay, but it does speak to a point. Even though I'm fine with most of the decisions they made in this game, you know, I've talked about this before, Jake, where like, you know, whenever you remake something, you run the risk of like changing even perhaps unintended elements of the original that would elicit feelings that you can't now if you start mucking things up, you know, with these more refined character models and, you know, environments and whatever else that they ended up changing. So I hear you, I get it. Like those, I think this, like for me would find it difficult to go back to the original now. But on the other hand, I feel like once I started to go back to it, I probably could just get used to it. And this probably could have been an NSO release, you know. And the fact that it still isn't on there is a little suspect. That like, obviously it's not there because they want to promote this new remake. But it is a little weird that they held off on that just to promote this new game. I don't know. My feelings overall are complicated on remakes, but I think Mario RPG, for me personally, is one of the better ones I've seen.
There's one other thing that just is occurring to me now is that I just think that if they took like any kind of bigger swing, I think it would have been met with thunderous applause. And maybe I'm wrong, but like I'm thinking a lot about the combat system and how it is this like timing based thing. And it is like a little weird if you're not familiar with it already. And the things that the game does, like that little icon that flashes up, like that little, I think it's like an exclamation point in like in like a comic booky thing. I guess I'm just like, if you really sat down and said, okay, we've got like more control over the characters, the environment, the animations, the music. We have more control over everything we did than when we first originally made this game for the Super Nintendo. Is there a way that we could illustrate or visualize or do something that is like, oh, that was a really clever way of doing that? Like, is there anything that they could have done with the characters, the enemies, with the music, with the environments, anything more than just like having this little comic book panel exclamation point flash up on the screen? And that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that I just feel like there's a degree to which they just did the easy thing. And it's like, and it has the excuse of being a remake. So you don't interrogate it the way you would a new game. And I think if they took a bigger swing, I think we all would have been really impressed with it. But that's you know,
so Jake,
that's just me guessing. Yeah.
Thinking about that and about it's like almost a production thing, and this game absolutely had to come out this year with 1000 Year Door remaster coming out next year.
Yep.
So like obviously they had to make decisions on how long to spend in this game and what to add in and what not to get it done, and also ruin Fat Yoshi. But anyway, that's
interesting, Tom. Yeah, that's interesting.
It kind of gets, I think I was talking about this was the sequels earlier? I don't remember anymore. We've been talking for a while now. But whenever you remake something, you're never going to make everyone happy. Because like it's you either changed too much, you didn't change enough. And like for instance, you know, I think the Final Fantasy VII remake is largely acknowledged as being a really cool way of updating that game. But I literally just saw on Twitter like 2 days ago, someone looking at the gondola scene and be like, the new one completely misses the point of the original. I'm like, I get that, you know, I don't know if I'd agree with that. I haven't played either versions of the game, but you know that whenever you remake something, like you could compare every single instance of that scene and like choose one over the other, and that's why I think is probably, I don't know, I guess for the market that they were targeting, I think it probably made sense to keep Mario RPG as similar to the original as possible. And if you want to do something new, just make a sequel, and that's what I would hope to see. Like, if they actually follow up on Mario RPG now that I assume it's been a success. I don't know what the sales are. You know, they can maybe get more experimental then, you know, and really push what you can do with the Mario RPG.
Well, can you imagine though? Like, we gotta respect that they kept the small sort of chunky Mario characters in. Like, they could have easily gotten rid of that.
I don't know. I feel the same way. I feel like, but he doesn't have the same weirdness that he had before.
Yeah,
there's like, and I wonder if there was a way that they could create in 3D now that Mario that we're all familiar with from Super Mario RPG, and we all go, whoa, they made like a modern reinterpretation of that old art style. So, but I don't feel that they really did that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is unique because it is different. Like, the first game had a clear pre-rendered look to it, which in that era looked really neat and semi-realistic, given we hadn't seen visuals of that style before. So the most truest way of updating that would be to use, like, well, what might have been the original high-quality models instead. Kind of like as we've seen in that Mario 64 remake that fans are doing, where they're they're like recreating the style of the CG renders of Mario from that
Yes.
era.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that actually looks amazing. Like I would have seen Nintendo do that themselves, and maybe that would have been a better angle for Mario RPG. But then, you know, it may have looked super freaking weird to people who know Mario for what he is now, which doesn't have that plastic sheen outside of New Super Mario Brothers. I don't know.
Every time I see those old renders, like on the box art of the original game, I always think of like it being like a claymation or like a stop motion kind of thing. And I just like, man, dude, it'd be so cool for Mario to go way outside and say, we're doing this kind of thing. And I think if it did, it would have, it just, I don't know. That's the kind of like reinterpretation that I'm looking for from remakes for me personally. Yeah.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, there's that was it for brand new game releases, but there's I still think one more data point from Nintendo. On December 14th, we had Pokemon Indigo Disc DLC for you know, Scarlet and Violet. We've already talked a lot about this on the channel, I think, but it's like what, mere days after it launched at this point. But do we have any like broader Pokemon thoughts? Perhaps we can tie into this for the year of the state of Pokemon, if you will.
Go on, Jake. Go on, Jake.
Pokemon sucks. Pokemon rules. It's all true. It's all true. Like,
I don't think I've seen Jake more conflicted about a series than Pokemon. Like, it's
I
so hot and cold
sit
on
there
it.
torturing myself about whether or not I think something is good, and I like. It's so, like, the best example of this is in the new DLC, you get the ability with your mount that you've had the whole time to just straight up, you press a button, now you fly. You are a jet engine.
They fly now?
Yeah, you can fly. Yeah, okay. And it's funny because, you know, Pokemon, this game is held together by, like, duct tape. And you go, oh my god, I'm going to take off, and the game's going to explode. And weirdly, it kind of works. Like, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
You're the problem, Jay. You're the problem with Pokemon.
I'm like, why does this work? and it's kind of fun, and I kind of like it, and there's really no reason that you ever need to do it other than just exploring. But it's like, I don't know, man. Pokemon's so weird. It's like, the performance issues suck. There's some other parts about the game that suck. The storytelling is god-awful, but like it has some good ideas sometimes. It still like has good characters. Like Pokemon's really good at like drawing a portrait, and then later those like anime people get a hold of that character and they really do good stuff with it. But like in the games, they're just so bad at storytelling. They need voice acting so bad. It's one of those things though that like so many of the ideas are good that it really does give you confidence in the future at least. Like it's very clear what's holding back the franchise. So
I'm like completely with you, Jake, on like almost every front. Like, especially in this DLC, this was like the most where I felt like it's clearly being held up by lack of voice acting. Because you can't have this like dramatic camera angle of Kieran like roaring, like really like yelling about how upset he is, and it's just text box, gah. Like that doesn't sell it. I'm sorry, it doesn't. It makes me laugh at what's happening. It doesn't make it feel as dramatic as it's supposed to. But you know, they would have been much more impactful if these were starting to be voiced. And so many like mechanics and ideas that Scarlet and Violet in general introduced, but then the Teal Mask, the Indigo Disc, all of these things that get introduced that I think if it was in a game that's not held together with paper clips, it would be impressive.
Yeah.
Right now, I hate that my first reaction is it's impressive that it's working.
Yeah.
Like it's unfortunate because like I have so much fun with Scarlet and Violet, but it's so at odds with how I feel like, but I don't feel like I should be okay with the state this game is in. The content is great. How it's held together is not.
Listen to how cool this is, though. Like, okay, really quick, full spoilers for Pokemon if you care. but like, Andre, listen to this. This is in the video game. There is a character who is obsessed with this one Pokemon, and all he talks about is this one Pokemon. And then you find it, and the Pokemon looks at you and looks at him, and the Pokemon chooses you. And it causes this character to have a full-on, like, pulling the hair out of his head Joker moment.
Joker moment.
And he literally is like, okay, my life's mission is to murder you now. And then the second DLC comes back, you see the character for the first time, you don't even realize it's him. He's undergone such a transformation, and he is the toughest guy there now. And
he's the toughest character in the series.
Yeah, no,
now.
And he is insane, and he is like fully crazy. And then again, it's like, oh my god, we're going on a mission to find this really strong Pokemon. He comes along, and the Pokemon jumps out, and he goes, he sees it take a couple of steps towards you. And he goes, no! And he pulls out a Master Ball. And he throws it at that Pokemon because he's like, this is not happening to me again. And he's just like screaming and freaking out. And he takes this Pokemon and he's like, now I'm gonna like kill you with it. And like, this is awesome. And they don't quite pull it off.
Yep.
And it's a shame because it's all there. They've got it. They've actually, somebody sat there and said, I know what we should do. And they didn't have the tools. They didn't have the resources. They weren't given the time. They weren't given the money. But man, like there is going to be a sweet anime one day with that guy. And I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it. Really cool. And the way that idea, that character like lives in your head outside of the game, for the brand, it's amazing. Like such a cool Pokemon thing to exist. It's really awesome. It's a shame that the games don't quite have it to support the good ideas and things that they are coming up with over there. So
yeah, exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself, but I like completely agree with you there.
Oh, so cool. Yeah.
So it sounds like we're leaving the year on a kind of optimistic note for Pokemon. Is that?
I can't wait for Pokemon Day 2024. Can't wait.
Really?
Yes, I can't wait. It's gonna be a good one, Tris. It's gonna be a good one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Especially now that
I'll hold hope with you.
Scarlet and Violet seems to be wrapped up at this point, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I hope it was a learning experience. I hope that they, you know, you can only, like, Nintendo apologized for them. So, you know.
Yeah,
like,
which they never fixed that. Didn't they promise a fix and they haven't fixed it?
They fixed, like, game-breaking bugs. There's no.
Didn't they mention performance at some point, or did they not?
It kind of implied they were going to try to address performance. To me, that means they tried and it didn't work.
Yeah.
But like, it's so exemplified. There's this one moment, I brought this up in my little video about it. There's one moment at the start of the DLC where they're like, look at this brand new area. You're getting these, like, what should be nice panning shots, and the draw distance sucks and the mountains are blinking out of view.
Wow.
It should be a great view of what you're going to. They should not have had that scene in it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
No. Dang. Yeah, well, that's too bad. Hopefully it is a learning lesson for them, and we'll, I imagine, have many more thoughts on Pokemon's potential in our upcoming 2024 discussion. But that brings us to the end of the year in terms of games. We'll be talking headlines soon enough. But I want to talk about, now that we've recollected over the past year of Nintendo, what do we think the state of the Switch currently is? Like, how are we feeling about it as a platform now? Is it clearly on the way out? Does it feel like they're kind of like phoning it in at this point? I don't know. I know Jake's had some thoughts on all the remakes we've had and remasters. So how are we feeling about the Switch right now in 2023, the end of 2023, going into 2024? What is it?
Like, this was a really strong year. Just having Tears of the Kingdom alone is a big deal, and Mario Wonder. It's interesting because, like, usually when Nintendo consoles are on their way out, their game library just suffers as a result. Like, there was nothing last year of the Wii, there was, like, nothing last year of the Wii U. I just feel like, timing-wise, it is, like, the Switch is like, currently going through a transition year, but I don't know if the library this year was any indication of that, if that makes sense. It's tough to explain, really. I don't think, like, if you were judging the game year if you were judging, like, if the Switch is on its way out based on its library this year, I think not, right? But I still feel like the timing, there's still going to be a Switch 2 next year, or maybe the year after that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, to me, I look at the library this year, and it kind of feels like they were making sure to hit upon a bunch of the major IPs, and especially get a lot of the major games, Mario Wonder and Tears of the Kingdom, Pikmin 4, get those out within a reasonable amount of time, because this is gonna start winding down. Because I think rather than having an entire final year of the console that's gonna be rough on content, they're spreading it out a bit more this year, I think. I think a lot of things might have been saved for or made for coming out near the end of the console's lifespan this time, to prevent what happened with the Wii, what happened with the Wii U. And because I feel like, because now that we had Tears of the Kingdom, now that we had Mario 1, and we had Pikmin 4, I don't think we're getting another one of those big titles on this platform. It'll be on the next one.
Tress, to that point, there was a comment at the start of the year, no more heavy hitters coming to Switch.
Oh, man.
After Tears of the Kingdom was the mark, right?
After Tears of the Kingdom, yeah.
Right, yeah, but I think that was before we knew about was that before we knew about Pikmin 4, or do we know about it?
We knew about Pikmin 4 last year.
Okay, we did, okay.
So,
that was before we knew about Mario Wonder.
Mario Wonder,
Yep.
that was it, yep.
Yeah, and you can't say the Mario Wonder is not a heavy hitter. You just can't do it.
No, it really is.
I mean, I frankly, I think the status of the Switch is that it is pretty clear and obvious to me that it is one of, if not the best, Nintendo consoles of all time. And I like feel like it's easy to put it there. So there's like two maybe that I'm like willing to fight with, but yeah, it's just the library is too good, and I think even however many years removed we are from it launching now, the hybrid nature of it is still a winner. It is still a huge factor in its success, and I think will continue to be like a great selling point for getting games on the platform. But on the other side of the spectrum, I think it's just the stuff that that holds Nintendo back, always holding Nintendo back. It's like every time I want to do something online with this thing, bleh. Every time I think about like getting I don't know, like I'm sick of like worrying about how like the performance of games are. Like Sonic Superstars was on Switch, and I hate having that conversation in my head where I'm like, oh, but isn't it gonna look ugly if I want to play it on the Switch, but I don't want it to look ugly. And it's, you know, it's like stuff like that where it's like I'm just like sick of like going through the motions like that as a consumer. So it's you know, like Nintendo's doing their thing. They're firing on all cylinders. It's the content is there. When you forget about those problems, it is lovely. But the second you run into those problems, it is so hard to move past them.
Yeah, it's amazing digital games are as popular as they are on the Switch, considering how horrible the eShop experience is. It's slow loading, laggy. I hate it. Unresponsive. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that being improved. I think 2023 was very strong for Nintendo, as I mentioned at the top of the discussion. And I think without the context of what's coming next, I don't think there is like a clear. I don't think the argument for like the Switch 2 being obvious is as clear. But knowing what is coming down the line, which we'll be discussing more in 2024, I think does kind of point to a shift in Nintendo where they are probably focusing resources now more on a successor, but now watch it go a whole another year without an announcement. That would be amazing. But yeah, I think overall, really strong, good year for Nintendo. Lots of surprising returns, which is great. And you know, putting aside my personal feelings on some of these games, like, you know, these are some of the several of these games are among the most critically acclaimed of the year. So yeah, clearly a really good year for Nintendo. And Jake, as you were saying, like the fact that we're discussing this, you know, now as I think we enter its 7th year, which I believe is a record for a Nintendo platform, ignoring maybe the NES. But even then, I think, you know, that it would supersede it. That's impressive. Like this is a platform that does not appear to be dying. You know, its sales have lessened, I think, but even still, it's a vibrant platform, and that speaks a lot to the state of the Switch. That even now, there are people who are like, "I'm happy with it. I don't need a Switch 2." You know, and that says something about it. It's a really good platform, and the fact that it's still is feasible in 2023 is remarkable. So, all right. Anything else?
Just really quick, you see like the Steam Deck, you see like all these handheld PC things, and I think it's important. Like you trace those back. That's the Switch, baby. That's Switch influence. That's 100%. That like yeah. So and seeing all those things in the market now gets me so excited for the future. What Nintendo will be able to do now that they have developed this entire little industry. So yeah, really cool.
And that's a perfect reminder to stay tuned for our 2024 discussion, where we predict everything Nintendo and that we know about and more. Should be a lot of fun. I don't know what's going to happen, but I have some ideas for what I hope may happen. On that note, of course, everyone stay tuned for our continued discussion in 2023 as we explore the headlines for the year coming up very soon. And with that, thanks for watching. We'll catch you later. Bye, everyone.